This is Blu Laker. This is Radio Tribune in Las Vegas, Nevada, at 717 South 9th Street, and that's at the corner of Charleston and 9th. And today, Chris is with me, Chris Garcia, and he has his own show, but he's joined with me because we seem to have the same ideas. We're on the same paths, and so it complements each other to be able to get other opinions besides our own, my own example, and to be able to compare notes and hopefully come to some compromising agreements. And one of the things that we've been talking about lately is the wars. And the wars are, we've had them throughout history. And we always say, well, they're never going to happen again. World War I, World War II, and of course World War III is not going to happen, right? Well, I don't know. It seems like we're on the verge of having that. And we've seen that there's some other apocalyptic events that are taking place that could definitely very well make it happen. Matter of fact, just one little thought that I have, and I noticed this in church on Sunday, was there's on page 100 of the Missalette, at any rate, there is a sign which is the Alpha and Omega. It has the A at the top and it has the U at the bottom, but it's in the middle of a cross, and that cross, the numbers are 2, 0, and then going back on the same side underneath the 2, a 1, and on the right side the 7. And I got to thinking about that because I'm very interested in the binary system and math in particular, and as a result, I tried to figure, well, what did that mean? Because I didn't really know. And it's there, it's printed, it's been there for, God knows, hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. And there has to be some relationship to that, to what's going on. And I, scratching my head, and as I mentioned to you before, because I believe that everything in this universe is based on a binary system. And as a result of that, having a base of 2 and then exploding from there, very much like human beings, and the possibility that God and Einstein, I got to backtrack a little bit. Einstein said not only does he believe in God, but that God, we may never be able to know what God's thinking because our ways of thinking are not God's ways of thinking. And he said that he believes that it's beyond the comprehension of human beings to know about God and God's ways. I can relate to that because of children. I see that happening to children. They don't know anything until such a time as they learn. And after they learn, well, then they're able to carry on just like we are. Well, if that's the case, then why aren't we, as children of God, having something to look forward to, as opposed to atheists who have nothing to look forward to in the afterlife? Can we say, well, okay, that's design and purpose? Because again, I certainly am not clever enough to be compared to Einstein or anybody like that. But the point is that that's what he said, and I truly believe that that's really what's happening. But so we're not going to know. But anyway, getting back to this sign that I was telling you about. And again, I want you to remember up on the left hand of the cross is the number 2. On the right side is the number 0. And on the bottom, underneath the 2, is a 1. And on the right hand side is a 7. And so, as I was mentioning to you, looking for zeros and ones and saying, well, how come it doesn't add up to zeros and ones or 10, which, or 7, because 7, I think, is the power number for God, okay? But finally, I came to the conclusion that it meant something because the A is for the Alpha, and the U is for the Omega, which is the beginning and the end, all right? Now, if that's the case, and this is significant, and it is significant in the Bible, and I can't tell you whether it is or not, then the rest of it is easier to figure out. But since I have to go beyond binary in this particular case, I have to look at what else that could mean. So, Chris, I'm going to ask you, what do you think that those numbers meant?
I don't know. There's so much mathematics in the Bible. They say that actually there's so many hidden messages, so many hidden mathematical equations in the Bible, even the ways certain words are placed, certain stories are told. There have been people that have gone in there and mathematically they say that there is a
formula?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we haven't figured it out yet. And when we do, the Bible was written for us to figure it out. And when we evolve to the point where we can figure it out, then we will understand the meaning of life and who created us and what God means to us. And then we just haven't reached that. Some people have begun to crack it, but we just are not at that point where we can understand what God was really trying to tell us. And once we get that, we'll know our origins. We will know why He put us here. We'll know everything. And so I think that everything is mathematical. That's the universal language. And I'm not smart enough, like Einstein, like you said, some of these guys to understand what those numbers mean, but they have a meaning, and they were put there for some reason. So I just hope in my lifetime maybe we can start to figure it out.
Well, to digress just a little bit, is my feeling and understanding, and nobody has been able to disprove it to me thus far, is that the binary system, being mathematical in the simplest form of mathematics known to man, and because it's everywhere in the universe, that is to say, we don't have men and women, and then we have children, and that's an expansion of the binary system, and the same thing with the animals, the flowers, and everything in life. There's even H2O, this combination of the binary system, hydrogen and oxygen, to form water. So because there's a simple explanation to that, in that, as you can see, by just using the zeros and ones and additional zeros and ones, you can accomplish things that you never thought possible. And water is one of them, which is the primary substance of life. So that's why I say that when I'm looking for something, I look at the binary system first and say, well, how does it compare? And, does it fit the pattern? And everything in life fits the pattern. But getting back to this, that the Lord also said that I will speak to you in parables and parables alone, right? So He said what Jesus got through saying. Okay, we need to figure out what it is that He meant by that.
Yes.
And since this was clearly embedded in the Scriptures, then we have to assume it has a purpose. So this is what I came away with. Again, I got to go back to the fact that it's the Alpha and Omega, which is the beginning, from the beginning to the end. And the numbers that I told you that are there are 2017. What does that say?
Oh, wow.
It says 2017.
Oh, wow.
So if 2017, if my analogy is correct, then the end is 2017. Now, to what end, we don't know. But does it mean the destruction of Earth, or does it mean a destruction of part of Earth, or the destruction of evil? I don't know. And I'm guessing, but I'm hoping I'm taking an intelligent guess when I say that these times appear to be there. In all the wars and everything else that's going on, and we're going to be talking about the wars here in just a second, because, we've been talking about the ones that we know about, that is to say, the one that we were engaged with ISIS, and then Iran, and China, and North Korea. Those are all battles that are imminent. We've had battles with Iraq, Iran. Oh my goodness, it's on and on and on. And there doesn't seem to be any end of it. And then, but now, the ones that are on the table now that seem to be the most important are Iraq and North Korea. However, we have our own domestic system also in place. And what I'm referring to is the gangs. I'm talking about the gangs. How many gangs would you folks imagine existed in Las Vegas. Gangs, we're not just talking about a gang, we're talking about a bunch of gangs. Well, according to the article that I've read that came out of The Sunday, which is a free magazine that you can pick up in a lot of places around town, there are 588 gangs in the Las Vegas area. 588 gangs, and they've taken this information statistically. The police department has supplied them with the numbers and so forth from there. But the population that the gangs create is approximately 12,500. Most of these gangs are, again, youth organization. Now, they may be, they are comprised of certain demographics. The demographics that they show are and this was in 2010, so this is a little bit older study, that 92.6% of gangs were male, and only 7.4% were female. And during that time, in 2011, the Hispanic gang membership is 46.2%. 46.2%, almost 50%. 35%, 0.3 is black, 11.5 white, and 7% other gangs. The point is that no one would have, unless you had studied this, no one on the surface would assume that the gangs were so influential here in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a lot here that they don't have in other places, as far as crime is concerned, as far as people to rob because there's more prosperous, there's more prostitution, there's just more of everything here, more entertainment, and millions and people coming in here during the course of a year. Yes. And of course, those are the ones that the criminals pry on a lot.
Yes.
But, so I'm not trying to get away from the subject matter here that we're trying to really hone in on this board, but I have to point out that even these 12,500 is a hell of a lot of people, that are involved in these gangs.
Yes.
And they're all trying for recognition. They want that infamous fame and glory that comes along with it for the short term, or the drugs that are associated with it, and sex, and all those other things that are there. That and when the family fails, that's when the gangs survive.
Absolutely.
If they can't get it from the family, if they can't get the guidance and the education, then that's where they're going to go.
Yes.
Now, what it means in a lot of cases is that they've ruined their entire life.
Yeah.
Where are they going to go and get a decent job if in fact they're all doing background checks now, and you see an arrest sheet and this guy's involved with drugs, sex, and other things, on the list. Where's he going to work? Maybe he can't work. If he can't work, he's going to be on subsidies because the government's going to keep him alive. All right, well, part of what I've been trying to allude to is that when you look at the statistical information and you look at ISIS, for example, especially here in this country, with so much that has taken place in terms of attacks here in the United States, and to think that our borders are so wide open, they can bring in whatever they want. That includes drugs, or weapons, or bombs, or dirty bombs. There's so many things. But considering all that, Chris, considering that we're at war on so many different fronts, which one do you think we need to handle first?
Well, I think that they're really all one and the same. I mean, I'm from the south side of Chicago, and unfortunately, when I was young, I got caught up in gangs myself. It's the same thing. Most of those people in ISIS are in their teens and their 20s, and they come from, bad financial situations. A lot of them, their parents moved to European nations to find work, much like most of our Mexican gang members' families moved to the United States to find work. The parents work minimum wage paying jobs in Europe. They usually are bound to certain neighborhoods to buy homes, and they never really assimilate in France or Germany or England. They just kind of go to work and go home to their communities, to their mosque, and they never really assimilate to those countries, so they don't feel German or French or English. And so the kids grow up usually feeling discriminated against, even though they're not. But that's how you feel, and I understand how you feel. I was Black and Hispanic myself coming up in Chicago, and there are times you feel discriminated against. And luckily, I had a military dad that said, get over it. Don't use your color as an excuse. Just means you got to work harder. But a lot of them, I understand where they're coming from. Where they're wrong is that instead of taking what they feel and using it to improve themselves, use that as fuel to go to school and get good grades and bring yourself out of your impoverished situation. Instead, they join these gangs and these cliques, which ISIS is, and decide to go out and do harm to others. It's no different in strapping a bomb around your waist than the over 4,000 people that were killed in Chicago last year, more than in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. That's why they call it Chirac. I grew up in that. Every day, 5-6 people were gunned down. So they're actually very similar, and I don't think we take domestic, that's terrorism. There are days that I wake up shaking. Like I've never been in the military a day in my life. My dad was in the military for 21 years. I remember him waking up some nights, shaking, yelling, screaming in his chair. Well, guess what? I did the same thing. And I've never been in the military a day in my life, but that's from having so many friends gunned down in Chicago, hearing the gunshots, hearing the screaming, being chased myself with people trying to rob me. You grew up terrorized as if you grew up in Afghanistan and Iraq. So I think domestic and foreign terrorism are very, very, very similar. And I think the same problems that you're going to have with these kids joining these gangs overseas, because that's what ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Taliban, they're gangs. They might be a little more sophisticated. I don't know, because some of these gangs in the United States are very well armed and very sophisticated. And I don't think we deal with it enough. I think we lose more American lives here to domestic terrorism than we do to the Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or something like that. I think they're both very serious, because I believe that those gangs are going to come ashore very soon if we don't close our borders. So not only will we be dealing with gangster disciples and Latin kings, we will also be dealing with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. I mean, so can you imagine having gangs in our cities? We got big problems. We need to close our borders. We need to educate these kids. And like we said, more importantly, we need to get the family back together. The family back together under God. We need to give parents more control of what's going on with their kids and stop taking all the rights away from the parents. They can't discipline them. They can't talk about religion. They can't send them to the school they want to. They're taking all the rights away from the parents. So the parents feel overwhelmed. The kids are running around doing whatever they want to. There's no God in the school or community. We created a mess, and this is what we're getting from that mess that we created. So, we need to get back to caring about our kids, man, and making sure they have a good education and a way out of poverty. There's so many kids living in poverty in Las Vegas, and they grow up thinking, I don't have a chance. The only chance I have is if I join this gang and sell drugs, and then I have a chance. We got to reach out to them and say, hey, there's another way. And there's a lot of great, like Teen Challenge across the street, there's a lot of great community activists and things that are going on to look out for these kids. But those statistics don't tell the truth. It's more than 12,000 gang members in Las Vegas. It's probably double that. You're talking about 25,000 children running around the streets saying they're in a gang. That's a small army. That's crazy.
Are you saying that your first priority as far as the wars are concerned would be the domestic front?
I think we have to hit them both equally. I think they're both just as important.
Let me point out one little thing.
Yeah.
All right, with relationship to the gangs. you think there's any gangs in North Korea?
I don't know. I'm sure there are. I mean, I'm not,
I seriously doubt it.
You don't think so?
I seriously doubt it. You see, because they play it by a set of different rules over there. They catch somebody stealing, they probably shoot them or cut off their hands. All right, and so when you, the reason I'm saying that is that once we get serious about turning this around, we're going to have to face serious choices, and we're going to have to be very serious and dedicated to what we need to do. Is it going to be pleasant? No. Are there going to be repercussions? There's always repercussions. There's going to be some people who say, "Oh, that's not humane." You know, it's oh, we can't do that. Well, let me tell you something. You know, the ISIS is not covered under the Geneva Convention because guess what? They don't wear uniforms. Yeah. And because they don't wear uniforms, they're not entitled to any particular privileges that you might enjoy under normal military operations. But we do have serious problems with, obviously, with the gangs, as you have alluded to. And again, it's what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, you know, we don't want to find out the hard way, but, you know, ultimately there's only one authority that can tell us that, and that is God. Yeah. So we're yet to communicate with Him on a personal level. Maybe He just waited to see what's going to happen here. He's given us the opportunity to think and to choose and try to make the right decision. But if we make the wrong decision, that's our problem.
I'll tell you, I don't mean to interrupt you, Lou, but I'll tell you one thing why I say that they're one and the same, and we need to deal with both of them equally. Coming up in a gang situation, we make the same mistake with domestic gangs that we do with foreign gangs. Basically, Saddam Hussein was a creation of the United States. Him and his family were basically a gang. We put him into power, and then we cut off the head. When we cut off the head, all these little parts came out, whether it be ISIS or Al-Qaeda or whatever. And they did the same thing domestically. I remember in the RICO Act in the late 70s and 80s when they went after the leaders of the gangs that I were involved with. And President Reagan, rightfully so, indicted them on different counts, racketeering, prostitution, sex trafficking, so on and so forth. I actually had to go to court for that. But when they did that, they took away the leadership. All of these little kids, man, that had been wanting to have power and had to listen to the leaders of those gangs, and they had to do things discipline-wise. Listen, one life lost is too many, but there was never, when I was coming up, 1,000 murders. There were 400 murders in the city of Chicago, and the reason for that is that they had very strong leadership, whether it be the Italian mafia or black gangs or Hispanic gangs. And so those guys were called shot callers, and the decisions they made, that's the way things were, and people were too afraid to cross them. When they indicted them in the 70s and 80s and they went after the mafia and they went after these street gangs, they took away the leadership of these people, and now you're dealing with children. Children have no respect. You put a 15-year-old in power and give them a gun, they're just going to shoot up the neighborhood. They don't care, because women, they don't care. They have no respect. And we do the same thing with governments overseas. We go over and we take the leadership out, and then we leave the country open, and we pull the military out, and now we're dealing with 10 gangs instead of one.
Well, you see how history repeats itself, because you see we did the same thing to the Indians. Yes. We killed all of their leaders, and then we got the rest of them drunk. Yeah. So all of a sudden, they were on subsidies that before they weren't. They had to go out and hunt and fish and carry on their life and educate themselves. And so then once the leaders are gone, their strength is gone, and they don't know who to follow. And it's true. So what you're saying is that we have to go after the leaders, and I would agree with that. And just because North Korea's got a very strong leader right now, he's following his dad's footsteps, which a lot of people will do. They look towards their peers, and then they just repeat it. So, but he's not going to be an easy target. No. He's going to be very difficult to get. And a lot of time before we can get there, I mean, look at look at Hitler, for example. He evaded it for the length of the war, and then finally, when the chips were down, he took his life. And and it wasn't just that he took his life. It was the bombing of Hiroshima and the destruction of all the equipment and killing of hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children. In that process, and history has a tendency to repeat itself. Well, again, God has promised us 1,000 years of peace. It's going to have to come somehow. It's going to have to start somewhere. And if the Alpha and Omega and sign that I saw has anything to do with it at all, it's up and coming. And the only question is exactly when.
Yeah.
Are we to that point now? Look, we have nuclear powers all over the world. We have China with nuclear warheads and North Korea. We have India. We have, what's the other one over there? Pakistan? Pakistan also has it. And then you have others like Israel has it. We supplied that, of course. And then you have Russia and the United States. And so there's a lot of countries out there, and all somebody has to do is get nervous and push the wrong button. And it's very much like what happened here in Nevada at the Bundy Ranch. Had anybody pulled the trigger up there, we'd still been trying to sort that out. And there's no doubt in my mind that it would have wakened up America. And at some point in time, I think we're going to find that the Bundys are going to be acquitted. I believe that the responsible parties, and I know who they are going to pay for it, and if not on this earth, certainly in the thereafter. But what we need now is we need to get some results right now, and we can't get bogged down with all this bickering and BS that's going on, and all this wasted time with Russian interference and good God, there's nothing they haven't come up with anything substantial. Why don't they just put it to bed and let's get on with the job, the real job, protecting the borders, protecting America. And if there's going to be a strike, let's be first. That's right. And that's my feeling on it. I think that does anybody want to go to war? Well, I don't imagine anybody does. Does it have to be, look, it's different now. We have nuclear capacities. And so instead of sending troops, we send some bombs over there and take care of it. There's a new weapon that's out there. I don't know if you've heard about it. I'm not even sure that I can quote it correctly, but it's 23 pounds. And it's called I don't think it's called the Mach 7, but something like that, 7. And what it is a bullet, a 23-pound bullet that is electrically driven, and it is capable of supersonic speeds and can penetrate armored tanks and everything else. At the same time, the mere force of it, I wish I could remember the name of it right now, but I don't. And I'll try to remember that and bring it in. But I was reading about it on the internet because they're saying this company is a small company, nowhere near the size of Boeing or any other big boys, but that there's great potential in it. And they showed pictures in the video of the bullet, if you were, traveling through 7 or 8 steel walls and taking a tank and just not leaving anything left. There wasn't anything left after it hit the tank. And it's something new that just came down. But Hitler was working on a supersonic bullet, okay? But his supersonic bullet was very very heavy and everything else. This, only 23 pounds, and traveling at speed more than the speed of sound to its destination. And so there's different players in the game, and what they're saying was that if because we have our carrier group out in China South Seas, or, out there close to South Korea, that it's China's plan to take out that fleet. And they have built islands close by 50 miles or so, 100 miles, wherever. And they've deployed their cannons and everything else so that they can attack the carrier group. In other words, they want to annihilate that. And what they haven't counted on is this super bullet that they'll send aircraft out to destroy it, with all kinds of specialized equipment and so forth. But these bullets travel so fast, and you're inexpensive compared to, nuclear warheads and things of that nature. And a ship can carry up to, they told, I don't know, it was a tremendous amount of ammunition that they can carry so that they don't have to, they're not looking at it. And the idea is to, if the North Koreans or the Chinese actually start something, that they can fire enough of them at them that they will destroy all of those incoming missiles and preserve the fleet. So we got some real big stuff happening, and
you see what we did to those
ICBMs,
shot them down, 3 of them.
It's interesting to know that we're kind of in a big chess game, and we're watching almost daily and listening daily to some of these things. And a quick note, if we want to continue, we can do so. But,
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
All right. Quick note, what do you think is going to happen with Flynn?
I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him.
Let me guess, okay? The reason he was told to go ahead is because one of the reasons he wanted immunity is that he understands that he did something wrong, perhaps illegal, by accepting the money for these various things he did in Russia, okay? Now, that was something that was on a personal level, and they could nail him for that. But in terms of other things, and interference, Russia interfered with the election. He's got nothing to say.
Nothing. No, I think it's just, they just don't like our president. That's what it is. They just want to stop him from doing his job. It's just that simple. That's all it is. We're about to get off right now.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying then is that I'm saying that Flynn has nothing to worry about. But I'm saying he's got nothing to worry about, because even if something did happen, guess what? And when I say that, suppose they say, well, we're going to string him up, we're going to arrest him on taking money under false pretenses or something, or lying to the boss or something like that, okay? Guess what? There's a president up there who can put his initials on a piece of paper, and eliminate all the charges.
That's right. And I want to say before I get off, when you said it, you're right about it being a big chess game. There's no doubt in my mind that China backs North Korea. I think Russia backs Iraq. There's no doubt about it. And they use them as pawns. They pay for Kim Jong-sun, I'm sorry, the son, the nutty son with the stupid haircut. But they pay for him to stay in power. And what those countries are afraid of, I always tell people this. The United States military is 100 years, and I'm not exaggerating, ahead of Russia and China. Not 10, not 20, not 50. 100 years. And I'm talking in today's technology, which means 1,000 years. We are so far ahead of Russia and China. We don't talk about it. But what they did was they put that nut up to shoot those missiles into the sea to see what our defense is. They saw it. And the real truth of the matter is, we can really take them out before they even attempt to shoot those missiles up in the atmosphere. But we just wanted to show them, because those are Chinese missiles. And what we just wanted to show them was, you can shoot them off and we can intercept them like that. And we didn't do it one time. We did it 3 times to let them know it wasn't an accident, it wasn't luck. We can shoot down every single missile that you lob at the United States of America. That Star Wars program never ended, and I always tell people that. That program is alive and well. We have missiles on those satellites. We have missiles that are controlled by those satellites on those naval ships. They have we're light years ahead of every other country. We spend so much money on our military, and there's so many blackout projects that aren't even on the books out at Area 51 and at the Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio and all over the country. Those are just the ones that you know about. The United States military spend a lot of money of our GDP on military and on black ops programs that other countries are 100 years behind us, like you talked about the bullets. There's so many other things going on like that all they do is they're afraid of us, but they want to see how far we really are ahead of them. So they put countries like Iraq and North Korea up to antagonize us, and they want to see our response. And I always tell people they don't have a long memory. The Iraqi National Guard, the Iraqi military, was the 3rd largest military in the world in the First World War. It took us a week.
Well, I don't disagree with the fact that we've got the technology. However, there's something that goes along with it. You see, it's one thing to conquer a nation, whether it be North Korea or Iraq or any of the others. Okay, that's one thing. But when you have groups like ISIS who are unknown, invisible, that becomes another story. And the gangs are just as bad as ISIS. Yes. So we've got our hands full, and it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. But Colonel Flynn is supposed to be testifying tomorrow, and we'll find out.
Wait a minute, talk about that.
Tomorrow's Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah, he isn't scheduled to go until Thursday. And Trump could have stopped him. He could have used it,
but he did.
Executive.
Allowed him to talk.
Yeah. So he said, let him talk.
That's right.
And I think I'm right. Why?
That's right.
Because he was afraid of the potential criminal conflict that he carried on by himself. Not in accordance. He didn't do that with malice towards this government or getting rid of classified information. Well, Chris Garcia, and Chris has got his own show here, and this is Blu Laker at Radio Tribune in Las Vegas, Nevada. We always have interesting topics to talk about, and a lot of you people should chime in. You know, it isn't a football game, but you can certainly grab a beer and watch us on the internet, and you might be surprised and actually enjoy part of what you can do to help us, to help America become great again.
Yeah, and a little surprise, we might have another show starting for you next week. So we'll have another new person coming on. We'll have another new personality. We got big things happening here at Radio Tribune. I'm so blessed that Rolando LaRosse, the living legend himself, has given me kind of control of the radio station. We got great talent like Blu Laker here, who just does a tremendous job every single day. I love his show, really. He doesn't know, but I watch his show sometimes. He has really interesting topics. You learn so much. Of course, Gordon Martinez, myself, Rolando, and there's a new person coming on. I'm going to keep it a secret, but he's going to start probably next week, and he's going to do a half-an-hour show. So we're just continuing to grow this station.
I'll give you a clue. It starts with DT. Does that mean anything to you?